All right, and we are live. So, welcome Ahmad and welcome Abhra to this small conversation. Hi everyone, we are the members of Second Chance cohort of 2025. My name is Sakshyam Pandey, and I'll be attending DSU this fall. We have Ahmad and Abhra with us. Abhra is from India, and Ahmad is from Pakistan, and they will be joining MBZUAI this fall. So Ahmad and Abra, very excited to talk with you guys, and I guess we can proceed with our presentation.
Absolutely. Hi, guys.
Hello everyone. I hope you're preparing well. So
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
so the first thing is, so I heard that the application process of MBZI is quite different from that of other universities. So what's the general application process like? So that's the first question.
yeah, sure. So basically there are two routes that you can follow as far as the individual application process itself is concerned. One is,
Mm.
the normal applications like any other university. And the second option, which is, the exceptional talent track, it requires, you know, a completely different application process it is. And rather than filling up your application in a normal, typical form, they do require you to send your CV, provided you are, an international Olympiad or something of that sort of, you have achievements of that categories. And you can send in your CV to a particular email which is detailed on their website. And as far as the other normal track is concerned, you'll have to file in the application, you'll have to fill in the essays and by the deadline, and also you'll have to submit a video statement as well, if I'm not wrong. However, this is a general application process which all the applicants follow for typically, as far as our experience is concerned with Second Chance this year, what we did was we wrote an impact statement from with the help of our advisors here at Second Chance. We wrote the impact statement, and there were some other basic requirements as well that we needed to submit, or the transcripts as well as the test scores if we had any, and also the English proficiency tests if we had any, and these were required. So when you submit these documents through Second Chance to MBZUI, then they can when they review your application, and if they seem it to be competitive enough and fulfilling their merits, so they call you for an interview, which we can detail about later. But this is a general application process both from Second Chance as well as non-Second Chance students. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So could you explain a little bit more about the format and flow of the application and what, as an applicant, we can expect from the process?
Yeah, so once the interview, you reach the interview, I guess there is, for interview, I can, Obro, can help initiate the conversation. But I just wanted to continue my last, sentence, when like when you reach the interview, these are the, the next steps that you have to follow, which Obro can detail.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. As Ammad said, once you submit your impact statement, so after that, after a few days, if you get shortlisted, you receive an email for an invite to schedule an interview with the professors.
Mhm.
They are most likely to be a PhD professor from a very specific AI specific background, and like here are some like more like most common professors who took this year's interviews for second chance students specifically. And so the general interview length is between 20 to 40 minutes. It actually also depends person to person, and like what kind of profile is it. And so the general start, what we noticed from all the students who did the interview was that the professors started with asking you a simple and short introduction, where you will most likely introduce yourself, and then give a background of technical side more specifically. And once you do that, the next question they ask is that tell us like what I remember, that tell one specific project that you work upon. And yeah, so where they will actually ask you everything from the starting to end. There will be follow-up questions for that as well. And then after the technical side, where they can ask from like maybe coding questions to any kind of tech questions, AI specific questions or anything. And in the ending, that they will most probably ask you and give you some mathematic problems that you will need to solve.
Mm.
And so the overall professor's tone most likely will be like very kind of like bland, and they are not very reactive to whatever you will be saying. That's what we notice all
Mm.
the students, that because since these are not admission officers like from the US that we see, these are professional PhD professors, right? So
Mm.
they expect you to be more technical profile, profound. So they can be expressionless. So but believe me, it's totally normal. You should proceed with that, and yeah, don't overthink.
Yeah, that's perfect. And like as you mentioned, so a technical interview that is quite different from what we normally expect from college interviews. So could you explain a little bit more on the technical side?
Yes, sure. So, like as Obro said, I'll continue from there. That the core essence of this interview, in in aspects that it differs from the other normal interviews like we see in the US and all those
Mm.
reasons, is that they are trying on that, and in the US and all these universities, they are trying to assess and gauge your how that your profile and your theme and your narrative and all your personality, how it fits into, or whether it fits into the values that the university cares about. But rather here, that the differences that we see over here are quite contrasting, in a sense that they just assess you based on your technical abilities and how well you can perform under which is admittedly a very difficult situation, because you are up against two professors who are respectively very very good in their respective fields. So now we are clear that we will have to prepare and keep ourselves ready for technical questions. So the best guide that we can give you is to walk you through uh, what are the aspects of technicality that are involved. So one of the main things is that the words that you speak carry a lot of weight, in a sense that first of all they ask you to introduce yourself, then they move on to your interests, academic interests. So and then you obviously talk about what you have done already. So from there they they are able to generate a lot of questions, just like in LLM. They'll come up with
Mm.
million questions in when you say any word. So they can either go directly into one of your projects, and they can just tell you that just walk us through this project and what you did and how you did it, and each
Mm.
step of the way they can ask you questions. And one of the other things that they can also ask is what are the challenges that you faced, and expect this question don't it doesn't come under the category of that learning part, that what challenges you faced and what you learned. It comes under the category of what code you wrote and why it wasn't running. They won't ask you anything else. It is 95% or maybe 100% of the times they are just logged in on the technical side of the things. That by challenge they mean which optimization, which Python library, you're getting my point. So you'll have to keep this in mind. And as as it is mentioned over here, that why not why didn't you use this LLM, why didn't you use this API, why didn't you use this data set, why didn't you use this model, this architecture, and so on and so forth. So you have to have the grip upon the projects that you speak about and the things that you put on your resume. Because if you are not able to replicate the exact specifics at that moment in front of the interviewers, so expect a lot of problems. On the other hand, if you are really capable, or you are really confident that you have a grip over a project in comparison to any other project which you think is very shiny or which is very glamorous. So we would suggest you, I think Obro is also with me on board when I say this, that you should speak about the project which you are really, you are really, you have a grip over that project. And know, basically, last things last, that know your tools, know your models, whatever you did with AI or outside AI, whether it is, any other subject, for example, it is physics or maybe something else. If you have did, IPHO or any Olympiad in physics, that's an example. If you have did something, be ready to go into the absolute depth that they need to check your abilities. So this will be, I think this can be associated with technical deep dives.
Yes, thank you, Ahmad. So, what I understand is students will have a little bit more homework to do before the interview about the project that they did. So, I just want to ask a small question. So, Is it required that a student should have done a project? Like, what if the student has not been involved in any sort of like significant projects, or what if like, so yeah, what if they've not done a project or something? So
Yeah,
what would be
so
the case?
yeah, so like maybe one of the things is that if you haven't you have gone through this training and you are there, you must have done something
Mm.
special. So that is why you
Yeah.
are there. So and but same as the case, because we Obro will also join me in saying this, when we have heard kids who were not related to AI,
Mm.
but and they had not done anything, they
Mm.
had not touched the AI side of the
Mm.
things, but they were they got in. So the main thing I would say here is that be ready to talk about your scientific expertise, whether it is in, whether it
Mm.
is in maybe AI or physics or, computational biology or biomedical engineering, whatever it is, whatever
Mm.
it is that you do properly, scientifically, whatever you excel at, and based upon which you
Mm.
want to get admission, you must be ready to, have all these points in mind for for that subject matter.
Yeah, that makes sense
100%.
because there should be
Yes,
something that
Oprah
should
was,
make you stand out, right?
yeah,
No,
definitely.
I would just say that I absolutely second with what Ahmad said.
Mm.
Is that it's here we have specifically mentioned about like AI and technical stuff, but you know what? It can be anything. We had students who had a like a profile with a physics background, a biomedical background, and different kind of
Mm.
stuff. It does not matter. The important thing is that you should know the like till the tip and the core of anything that you speak. It can be
Mm.
any topic, maybe physics, maybe art, anything, but there is a high probability that they will ask you a follow-up questions, and they will try to deep dive more into that.
Mm.
And basically they will try how do you think during the interview, and what kind of problem solving you think. Yeah, basically it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. All right, so that was the about the technical side, but also like in our previous discussions, you mentioned about maths and probability type questions. So could you explain a little bit more on this topic?
Sure. So the pattern we have observed from all the interviews is that almost everyone was asked a mathematic question, like maybe two or three. It depends
Mhm.
really, but
Mm.
mostly two or three. And so what we saw the pattern was that the questions were mostly about probability, sometimes matrix multiplication, vectors,
Hmm.
and different kind of mathematics topics. And also if you guys talk about anything mathematics specifically during your maybe technical thing, technical phase or anything, there's a high likely that they will ask you a question upon that. So like probability and like coin tosses and these kind of thing, these are highly likely to be asked. Here are some questions that we saw a kind of pattern, but this necessarily does not mean that you'll be asked these kind of questions only. I would say like you should be prepared with like your whatever grade you are in, and so you should be prepared with that kind of mathematics. Like most likely they will not be like very high level mathematic question. They will just see how do you think about any question that they will ask. So
Mm.
there's like you should be actually able to actually explain them that how did you actually solve it. So if there's a probability question or anything, so they will also ask how did you think about this and all. So
Mm.
Amal, would you like to add anything in this,
Hmm.
like what kind of questions and all?
Yeah, sure. So, basically, what I would say, the best advice that I can give for this mathematics part is basically they can be lenient in that sense that they, as far as my personal experience is concerned, they asked me if I was, ready for some mathematics question. I said yes, definitely I can, have them answered. And so they, rather than directly posing a question upon me, they first, asked me that what do you think are the mathematics topics which would help you in AI, or which
Mm.
any idea do you have about which topics could potentially help you in AI? So I said that, sir, I think so that probability and matrices and tensors can be potential topics that can be asked. And then they eventually ended up asking me questions related to those exact same topics. However, this cannot be the case, this cannot be the case for everyone. They can rather, they can just straight up ask you in a very serious tone. They can just straight up start to throw questions at you. So you should be ready and keep a paper as Obro
Mm.
guided me, I still remember that you should have a scratch paper with you. So
Yeah.
I'm passing by this advice that you should have a scratch paper with you as well. And the questions are in front of you, and these are the type of questions that can be asked. So be mentally prepared to have some mathematics going as well.
Yeah, and even
Mm.
if you fumble like any one of the questions, do not worry upon that and don't stress much. Even or if you are not like very much prepared on that topic, just explain that okay, I had not studied this topic in my classes. Can you please ask from any other
Mm.
topic, right? So as Ahmad said,
Mm.
they're most likely ask you that what kind of mathematic topics are you comfortable with, and they will ask you more on that.
Mm. So then it would be a good strategy to like prepare on these topics beforehand. Like if you have some like your
Yes.
strengths, then maybe you can prepare on those, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, like
Yeah.
if even if you have like any kind of like any mathematics topic that you are very much fond of or something,
Mm, yeah.
do some practice kind of stuff, right? At least have those maybe formulas or like at least basic
Mm,
concepts clear, and
Mm.
also remember to explain the reasoning behind your answer. So even if you are not able to actually maybe get to the answer, but even explaining the process that okay, if I had to solve it, I will solve it like this would help.
Mm. Yeah. All right. So moving forward, what about the coding type of questions? So could you elaborate a little bit more on those as well?
yeah. So as far as coding itself is concerned, because you are you should keep this as an applicant, you should keep this point in your mind that you are applying for an AI degree. And
Mm.
for AI, coding is the core essence of AI, as far as implementation itself is concerned of AI models. So if in case, and if it's not the case, both, either way, if you have some coding experience, it is, it can help you, because they can eventually ask you questions. And I've seen 90% of the time, I mean, no, I'm not sure if 90% is the correct probability to say, but they can ask coding questions, and they can ask you to code live. So you should keep this point in your mind. As far as the coding languages are concerned, Python and C++ came up this year. So we can expect that you are fluent in one of those languages if you are coding. However, if you are not coding, what you can do is, I had this thought process in mind, like for 1 second, if I put myself in the shoes of a person who hasn't coded, so you might probably, try to explain it to as much as you can. And if even if you know any pseudocode, or just you don't any mathematical intuitions that go into coding, if you know those, I think that can also be a positive indicator of your thinking abilities, and can just save you from absolutely nothing, of
Mm.
having getting no marks on that particular section of coding. So, and as far as questions are concerned of what type of things can be asked related to coding, so you should keep the the most important and the most famous algorithms in your mind, whether they are related to data structures and all that kind of stuff. And specifically, I was asked to, if I they first asked me that, do you know coding? So I said, yeah, I know. I can only code in Python. So they said, okay, good, can you explain to us intrinsically what goes on in your mind when we say that you want to print a Fibonacci series? And then I explained them, and I mentioned both the type of coding solutions that are there for Fibonacci series, and then they had given me a little bit of a debugging problem related to this. So you if you are again, it goes back into the saying that if you are really interested in coding, or if you have coded, then you have to play with your strengths, as Obro said. However, if you haven't involve yourself in coding, I would suggest you to keep yourself respectfully keep yourself into that category, that you shouldn't just disappoint them, that by saying that you know how to code, but that when they ask you any question, and then you can you just turn point blank, and you do not have anything to say. So it can be one of the difficult parts of this interview, because people I've seen that they clear the theory, the technical deep dives into the projects, they clear the mathematics questions, but coding can be a little bit difficult thing. So
Mm.
yeah, that's about it, I guess. Coding, I would say, if if you can, just like the maths questions and just like your projects, the revision that you do for those parts of your application, I would suggest if you could also, have a look at it and revise if you know coding. So if you can revise it, it would be, uh, better for your it would be better for your interview and in the long term as well.
So this is also one of the really important parts of the interview, I assume. So yeah, so this also needs a lot of preparation, I guess, because it's like application and like coding is a very big ground and
Yeah.
you can be asked from anything. So
Yeah.
yeah,
One point
so
that I wanted
students
to,
need to be prepared.
I wanted to add, and sorry to interrupt you, I wanted to add, but I guess I have forgotten is that, if
Mm,
you, no one in the world I know can directly code in few seconds, just on the top of their mind.
mm,
So they need some sort of a pattern
yeah,
to, first recognize the problem, then think through the
yeah.
problem, and then have it implemented on a paper, perhaps through a pseudocode or something like that, and then talk through it.
Mm,
And then maybe if they ask to code you it, live on VS
mm,
Code or something like that. So, try to follow those patterns. Don't try to, come up with the solution in just 5 seconds. It won't happen. So think through it, even, in case they do ask you a question related to Python or coding. So think through it. And even if you don't know the proper answer, I guess, but this is one of the advice that Abhra also gave me, that at least you can explain your thought process. So that would,
yeah,
that would leave some
yeah,
positive impact.
mm, yeah. All right, so let's move forward. And so now I want you guys to share your interview experiences, how your personal interview went, and what you had expected, how it went, like a summary in general.
All right, so I remember it was the day 3rd of June, and so my interview time was at like 6:30 p.m. And so there were two professors who took my interview, and so interestingly, one professor came around like 5-7 minutes late, and we were waiting for him to join, and then
Mm,
he joined in, and then we proceeded. One of the professor asked me, so like introduce yourself and all. I introduced, I told my like tech background and my quizzing background and all stuff. And then after that, they said, okay, like, and then they directly asked me, okay, tell me one of the projects that you have worked upon and explain all of it. So then I took one of my tech projects and like told them about whole part of it, like from the starting to end, what kind of things I use and all. Then they asked me like, there was a question like, how would you actually do the reasoning part of it? So and how did you code it? So I explained them that how I actually coded it and what kind of reasoning I used in coding. So that was one part. And then also interestingly, I had made a website for them, but they were not very interested to view it. However, I shared my screen and showed it to them. There was like nothing very of like kind of reactions or so. They said okay, okay, and all. And so yeah, it was like that. And after that, they asked me one question, that tell me one of your experiences where you had faced a very good amount of like technical problem, and it was a very big problem, and how did you actually solve it? So then again, I took one of my another AI projects that I had built upon, and told what problem we were facing and how kind of difficult it was to solve, and how after brainstorming and all we came up to a solution and all. And then I explained it. And then after that, they also like kind of viewed my portfolio and resume. And then at the end, they asked me, okay, like I had this one organization which I was founder of. So they specifically asked me like what kind of it is, right? So what is it and how's it working? And they went more and then asked me a couple of follow-up questions, and then I answered them, and again they said all right and all right. And then at the end, they asked me like, sure, are you comfortable with mathematic questions and all? I said yeah, I'm fine with that. And then they asked me two of the mathematics questions, like technically three, two probability question and one was matrix multiplication. And so the matrix multiplication question was specifically asked because I mentioned about vectors during one of my AI project. So from that, they actually maybe thought of asking the matrix multiplication question. And then I had one scratch paper and I showed my calculation as well. So how did I made a sample space and did the probability question as well, the multiplication one. So yeah, this was it. And at the end, I asked them few questions about the university and the program. And yeah, this was it. Overall, like they did not kind of reacted overall. They were like pretty like kind of like not much kind of reactions or anything. They were just listening, listening and listening, not even smiling or anything. So be prepared for that. Even if they are not kind of reacting much to your speaking, whatever you're speaking, uh, uh, you should be fine. It's totally fine. Do not overthink about it, and things will go on your own. And then yeah, at the end, they ended with that, okay, we will let you the results soon. And yeah, after a few days I got my result, and yeah, I was accepted. Yeah, this was kind of my short summary of my experience. Yeah, Madhu,
Mm.
go ahead.
Yeah, so
Yep.
like I would say like for me that the template was same, the exact same. And so I will walk you through, what I remember from my interview. So I came in, they came in, I had, as Obro, I had two professors interviewing me. And so we started with my introduction. I introduced myself, and then they also introduced themselves. And then they just one of the professors who was just leading the interview, he said me, to talk through any academic interest that I have. So I explained them my interest in biomedical AI and what then the type of projects that I was doing. So first of all, he asked me related to when I said this word biomedical AI, he instantly asked me like, why biomedical AI, and how do you think that these two mutually so different fields can come together? So I explained what I knew and according to what I knew. So and then he seems to have been acceded to what I said, and then we moved on to my the actual project that I did. And then he went on to ask me a lot of questions. The technique I used was meta learning, which is the self-learning technique of some AI models. So, and he instantly asked me, why did you use this technique? How was it implemented, and what do you know more about it? So I explained it according to my knowledge, and then he asked me, he stopped me in the middle when I was explaining all this. He stopped me in the middle and asked me if this was all related to deep learning. So I said, yes, it was related to deep learning. And then he said that, do you know about, back propagation in deep learning? So I explained it according to what I knew. And then he asked me to move, continue from where I left. And then I, completed all my detail related to the project. And then he, in the middle of that, I used some technical jargon, just as Opera said. I used some words which were, necessary in order to for me to properly, explain them what I was doing. And whenever I used to speak one word which, which was questionable, in that sense that, they wanted to, they were just, I can give you the best advice they can give you. The words that you speak carry a lot of weight, because whatever I said, they just asked me a counter question related to it. So I remember, in one of those instances, I said about knns, and they eventually ended up asking me questions related to knns and what do you know about knns. Similarly, back propagation, as I told you, and there were a lot few, more as well, technical terms which I have put in, this interview form that we have created. So you can also view that interview form as well. So moving on, they then we I was we were in the middle of a silence that even I had completed, and they didn't knew exactly, they didn't knew what to proceed with. So they asked me if, one of the professors asked me if I knew about k-means clustering. So now here, it's a general advice that they can also, it can also come up in an interview. Who knows, maybe it can also come up in your interview, because this is one thing in AI that can easily be you know mixed up with KNNs. So, and it's a very common algorithm in AI. So you should be prepared on your own for in order to, tackle such sort of questions. So he asked me about K means clustering, and I unfortunately couldn't answer it that well, unlike my previous answers. So he then explained to me what it was. And by the way, after each of those answers that I gave him, he gave his feedback. So feedbacks are normal. So you are a student, so you must be expecting feedbacks all the time. So regarding the questions, then we moved on to some mathematical questions, and just like Obro said, they asked me two mathematical questions related to probability and one related to matrices. However, one thing that they spinned off for me was they asked me the applications of the determinants, which I knew, some I knew, and I explained them according to my knowledge, and they also just gave me feedback related to it. Then they asked me if I knew a little bit of coding, and then I said yes, I knew no coding. And then they asked me related to the Fibonacci series, and also they asked me to debug it if there was a problem in a recursive function of Fibonacci series. So this there is that. And lastly, and by the way, the question, the mathematical question was asked by the other professor, who kept silent throughout the interview, but he asked that mathematical part. And he was he was a nice, professor as well. But, just like Abhra said, you can never be so sure about their expressions. So, and then he just, he had to wrap it up in 20 minutes. So he asked me if I had any questions. And then I asked one question related to, I guess, it was related to the engineering and the business track, but I also asked if there were research opportunities in the business track as well, because this was something that I was not very sure about. So I ended up asking it. And then he gave me a good positive response on that as well. And this was, about it for the interview. And yeah, I guess that's it for the interview.
Yeah, that's really good. So, like all this technical and coding part, well, you guys are clearly like expert in those. But I noticed one small thing, like as Abra mentioned, there was an opportunity for you guys to ask question as well, right? In the end, and from what I know about interviews, that is a really important part of the interview. So it
Yeah.
shows that you are curious about the program. It shows that you have researched about the program.
Yeah.
And so I think that part, if you like for the viewers, if you get any opportunity to ask any question to with the interviewer, like interact with them, then you should take the opportunity. And I think that is one place where you can like really
Yeah.
like improve your standing in an
Yes,
interview.
because in these sort of interviews, there is no particular channel that they can, determine your demonstrated interest through, because all they ask are
Yeah.
technical questions, unlike in the US. So this
Yeah.
can be, a potential opportunity where you can actually show them your interest.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. All right. Thank you guys for sharing your interview experiences. And if there's any final tips that you would like to share, so you could shoot it. This is your opportunity.
Yeah, I guess there was one other, slide. If you can move it to that slide.
Just a second. Can you guys all right, so now at the end, we would like to give you some personal tips, what we have observed. So, again, starting with the first point, that expect the interview to be a little cold. Don't expect it to be like a US kind of interview where they, as Ahmad said, that it's not like they will like see you as holistically, because since these are AI professors, they want to know more about your technical background, not your whole overall personality or so. So be prepared for that. And there can be chances where they do not actually like give a good expression also. So again, we are mentioning that again and again, but do not worry at all. And yeah, and again, so the important thing I would say is this third point. It is very important. Like whichever topic you are speaking, whether it's any project, anything you are speaking, guys, please be prepared with that. Like to the tip of it, at like you should know each and everything about it, because there's a highly likely chance that they will actually ask you a good amount of follow-up questions and reasoning questions, and you might actually fluff, or there's a chance that you can go wrong when you are explaining the mechanism or something. So be prepared with that. And so also, whatever technical jargons you are speaking, you should actually know in a very proper way. It's not that you are throwing out technical jargons, AI models, RAG, and all stuff, but at the end you do not know any kind of those stuff. So again, the less you speak specifically in technical jargons, it's actually better, because they are less likely to actually follow up regarding that topic. And the last thing would be to have a basic, at least even if your background is not from AI or technology, but have like kind of a basic knowledge of artificial intelligence. Like as Mad was asked very specific AI questions like AI models and stuff. But if your profile is not that much tech based, but still I believe you should have that basic knowledge of how AI works, how these LLMs works, and all. Like like the basic foundational knowledge, they will actually help you. And from here, I guess Amat can continue.
Yeah, so Bro covered, quite greatly. I would say, one last point would be, it is a, it's from coming from my personal experience. I guess Bro will also, second on this when I say this, that, just as you are the author of your own story, similarly, you are the author, you can direct and you can, lead this interview, provided that you follow our advice and provided that, you lead in terms of, because they know basically what they do is they most of the time what they do is they follow what you say. So if you are, if you really want to, be in the control of your, your interview, and what I did before I, hopped onto the meeting with them, what I did was I had already planned that, after this we'll do this, we'll speak this. Unfortunately, life doesn't go as expected all the time, but it didn't, and it didn't go in my way, in my case as well. But what you can do is, whatever you speak, please, you control the narrative, just as the last point mentioned. You control the narrative, so please keep that in mind, and you are the author of this interview as well. So yeah, that's about it. Don't take this interview as a conversation, because it is going to check your technical skills. So I would say that, until the last day you should technically prepare for it, just like an exam. And then in the last day, obviously, you can just create a mind map. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I guess almost everything is covered, and we really wish you the best. And I hope this will help. And yeah, Saksham.
Yeah, thank you, Amar. Thank you, Abra, for such a lovely and such an in-depth sharing of your experience and tips for all the future SC participants. From my side and from the side of entire SC family, all the best for your interview, and you're gonna nail it. And just believe in yourself. So that's
Yeah,
what I like
just
to
feel
say.
free to reach out to us if you have any other questions as well.
Yeah,